Imagine this. You murder somebody in cold blood. Fucking stab him 50 times. But you don't go to prison because your lawyer's fucking Saul Goodman. What do? Do you A, live out the rest of your years in a small, quiet town, put your head down, consider it a blessing? Or do you B, make a social media account in hopes of becoming a public figure and really ultimately praying that people forgot about what you did or they've forgiven you for some reason? Well, I'm here to tell you that multiple people have chosen option B. And that's why I want to talk about today people, murderers who have attempted to rebrand themselves on social media. And what inspired me to make this video is this right here. Casey Anthony made a fucking TikTok. If you told me in 2011 that Casey Anthony was going to make a TikTok, first of all, I wouldn't know what the fuck TikTok is. It didn't exist. But secondly, I'd say you're crazy because she's going to prison for the rest of her life. And for those of you who don't know who Casey Anthony is, she murdered her daughter, okay? At one point, she was known as the single most hated person in America. And here's the TikTok right here. We'll take a look at her rebranding and whatnot in a minute. But first, I kind of got to explain a little bit more about why the case was so controversial back in the day. Because I understand that some people, basically anybody under the age of 20, might not even know who this woman is, which is part of why she's probably trying to do this. So a quick synopsis of the Casey Anthony story is it basically started with Casey sleeping over her boyfriend's house for like a period of a month, but without her daughter. And the boyfriend was like, "Hey, where's your daughter, Casey?" As well as Casey's parents, aka her daughter's grandparents, were also like, "Hey, haven't seen our granddaughter in a month. Where is she?" And Casey just keeps saying that the daughter is with the babysitter. The babysitter's name was Zanny. Now, Casey claims to have met this babysitter, Zanny, through her job at Universal Studios through some guy named Jeffrey, who Zanny also babysat, his son. But the grandparents of Casey's child, Kaylee Anthony was her name, they're like, okay, a month has passed and we have not seen our granddaughter, Kaylee. So the grandparents say to Casey, they're like, "Hey, tell us where she really is. We know she's not with the babysitter." So then Casey essentially says, "Okay, I lied. She's not with the babysitter. The babysitter kidnapped her." Keep in mind, a month has gone by, 31 days to be exact. And Casey has not filed a police report about her missing daughter. It's very fishy. So the parents call 911. And keep in mind, this whole 31 days, Casey's out partying, drinking, having the time of her life, not worrying at all where her daughter is. So the grandmother calls the police and basically says, "My granddaughter's missing, has been missing for 31 days. They put Casey on the phone as well. And the lady, the operator, I guess, is like, "Hey, Casey, how come it took you 31 days to report your kid missing?" And she says something along the lines of, "Oh, I was exhausting all my other resources." I mean, fucking ridiculous. Like she called up Elle from Death Note or Perry the Platypus. Who the fuck are you calling who are your resources besides the police? It's just insane. But it gets more ridiculous because the authorities ask for the nanny's phone number. Casey goes, "The phone's disconnected. Sorry, can't help you." Then they're like, "Okay, can you give me Jeffrey's phone number? The guy who gave you the nanny? The guy who recommended you the nanny?" She's like, "Yeah, sorry, his phone's also disconnected." And then they asked for somebody else's number, somebody who allegedly, I think, worked with Casey at Universal Studios. Her name was Juliette Lewis, and Casey again's like, "Sorry, phone number's disconnected, can't help you." So what are the odds that 3 people who could help with the case, all their phones are disconnected? Has everybody you've ever fucking known suddenly converted to the Amish lifestyle or something? Like, why does nobody have phones all of a sudden? So the police are like, "Hey, Casey, can you tell us the address then to the apartment of where Zanny, the babysitter, lives?" And Casey's like, "Yeah, I forgot the address," even though she alleges that she took her daughter there 5 days a week. She somehow doesn't know the address. So the police are like, "Okay, if you can't tell us the address, just take us to where you take her then, because you've been there before." So she takes them to some fucking abandoned building, and just clearly it's just some fucking random place she took them to. And then people are asking around saying, "Hey, do you know this woman Zanny, whatever her name is, that lives here?" And everybody's like, "No, never heard of her." So clearly Casey's just fucking lying about everything. So then the police are like, hey, Casey, just take me to Universal Studios then. Your coworkers will find them there. Since their phones are disconnected, we can at least talk to them in person. She's like, okay. She takes them to Universal Studios, walks around in circles for fucking an hour, and then she's eventually like, yeah, I actually don't work here anymore. So she lied about that too. And then the cops eventually get a hold of Jeffrey's phone number, the guy who told Casey about the babysitter, Zanny. So the police call Jeffrey and they say, hey, you know that babysitter Zanny that you recommended to Casey? You know, the one that babysat your kids too? And the guy's like, I don't know who Zanny is, and I don't have kids. So Casey lied about that as well. So then investigators find duct tape residue, chloroform, hair consistent with a dead body, either blood stains or the smell of blood within her car. I forget which one. As well as Google searches of how to make chloroform connected to her device. Eventually, Casey's daughter's body is found in a laundry bag in the woods. Basically, all of America knows Casey did this. But her lawyer comes up with some defense where it could have possibly been that her daughter drowned in a pool and that her dad was covering up. And it was really just a theory. But it was enough to convince the jury that there was reasonable doubt. And ultimately, Casey was found not guilty. She was, however, found guilty on 4 counts of, I don't know what it's called, but she basically misleading the police, lying to police. But that's all just to give a little bit of context of why she was the most hated person in America. But it was a big deal back in 2011, which is why it's so wild to see her rebranding herself. And I guess we're going to find out what she's rebranding herself about, because I briefly watched some of this video, but I don't even know what she's trying to do, honestly. So this is her first post on TikTok. It has been more than 16 years since my name became a household one. Everyone seems to have an opinion about me and about my life. I'm an advocate, a researcher. She did Google how to make chloroform. I don't know if that constitutes being a researcher. And I can't read the rest of her bio, but we'll go to Substack in a minute because we're just on her TikTok for now. Okay, this is her just saying that this is her only official account, which, I mean, that's about useless. This is her official first ever statement on her TikTok account, at least. Comments disabled, of course.
We're sweat to death. Okay. Today is Saturday, March 1st, 2025. This is my first of probably many recordings on a series that I'm starting. I am a legal advocate. I am a researcher. I've been...
Okay, what the fuck is a legal advocate? That's my first question. Sounds like a fake title. Wow, okay, so she's a type of lawyer, according to this post? That is the most ironic shit ever. I mean, she has a good sales pitch. I fucking killed somebody, and I got out of it. So I could get you out of anything. Unbelievable.
Series that I'm starting. I am a legal advocate. I am a researcher. I've been in the legal field since 2011.
I'm not sure if being on trial for murder is considered being in the legal field. So I don't know if 2011 is really an accurate date, but I digress.
And in this capacity, I feel that it's necessary, if I'm going to continue to operate appropriately as a legal advocate, that I start to advocate for myself and also advocate for my daughter.
Advocate for my daughter. That's like John Wilkes Booth advocating for Abraham Lincoln. I think she's misunderstanding the word advocate. I don't think you can advocate for somebody you fucking killed.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Casey Anthony. My daughter is Kaylee Anthony. My parents are George and Cindy Anthony. This is not about them. This is not in response to anything that they have said or done. That's not to say that I'm not going to respond at some point to some of the things that they have said and done. The whole point of this is for me to begin to reintroduce myself. I'm doing this both personally for me, but in a professional capacity. Moving forward, the majority of what you will see will be me speaking in a professional capacity. My goal is to continue to help give a voice to people, to give people tools and resources that they can utilize so they actually know where they can turn to.
Look at the look in her eyes, by the way. She looks like she can take somebody's life, is all I'm saying. She's giving a very intense energy into the camera.
So with that, please join me on Substack. If you have questions, I will set up an email address where we can correspond directly. Up until this point, that has never happened. And it's only going to be on a limited basis regarding legal issues, legal matters.
And chloroform recipes, of course.
One of the main reasons that I'm doing this, there are people close to me who have been targeted and attacked recently. There are also people close to me who have had some recent things occur. And when necessary, people needed to step up, myself included. So as a proponent for the LGBTQ community, for our legal community, women's rights.
Women's rights. Okay.
I feel that it's important that I use this platform that was thrust upon me and now look at as a blessing as opposed to the curse that it has been since 2008. With that, these aren't going to be perfect. They're not going to be edited. Most of the time, they're not going to be short. But I am proverbially standing in the light, embracing this piece, still going to keep my privacy intact. So you will get very comfortable with my car. And I will explain in great detail why it's so important for people to protect their privacy.
Yeah, get a VPN when you're Googling how to hide a dead body, is what she's saying, I think. Alluding to.
It's not just important to public figures, it's even more important to private individuals. And with the current climate in our country especially, it's that much more important, which is why I am utilizing the Substack platform. Yes, I am advertising this and publishing this on TikTok, possibly also through other meta platforms, but my intention is to separate from that and showcase even more why Substack is such an important resource for people to utilize moving forward. Anyway, I appreciate your time and we'll see how this goes.
Taking us to Substack, which I don't even really know what Substack is. I only downloaded this so I could see what she's up to. And her first post here, February 5th, we cannot stand idly as this atrocity continues. We have to protect the people of this country. We have to fight for our freedom. We have to fight for these programs that help aid Americans. We still have rights. Billionaires are not in control. Okay, so she doesn't like Doge. That's what I'm getting from the first post. Yeah, and I mean, people are fucking responding accordingly. You are literally a child murderer. Who are you trying to kid? You are the most tone-deaf person. Absolute narcissist, pathological, obscene woman. How dare you try to advocate for anyone? No one wants you in their corner. I literally can't believe what I'm reading. And I agree with the no one wants you in your corner thing, because she clearly is like a heavy left-leaning person talking about DEI, saying she's pro-DEI, anti-Doge. That's a very left narrative. The left does not want Casey Anthony on their side. The right does not want Casey Anthony on their side. It's a bad look regardless. So she's saying the University of Virginia breaks down the meaning of DEI. We're being told by elected and appointed officials that these programs are divisive, which is blatantly false. Inclusion is the intent and directive. And people are just shitting on her. Crystal saying, knock, knock, we know who you are. Casey responds, you know my name, but not my real story. Which is a literal meme. She's saying memes in a serious sense. If you cared to listen, you just might learn something. So continue to live in ignorance or simply pay attention. There's very few scenarios where like somebody could say something and it just doesn't matter. Like no matter what Casey Anthony says, I don't care. It's automatically invalidated. Like, how is Casey Anthony going to say, if you cared to listen, you might learn something? As if she's some fucking enlightened, wise guru that didn't commit murder 15 years ago and then leave evidence on Google as well as get caught in about 50 fucking lies. I mean, people are fucking outraged, though. Sandy saying, the nerve you have to monetize your social media and restrict responses to only those who pay you. Regarding your last message about the need for assistance if I were wrongfully accused, I would reach out to any other legal advocate but you. You are a murderer who was wrongfully acquitted despite all the evidence against you. If you want an ounce of respect, prove your innocence. Until then, go away. As seen on here, no one cares what you have to say. Casey responds, "Hi, Sandy. You're asking me to prove a negative, something that I've been trying to do since 2008. Maybe stick around and educate yourself further on who I actually am." I think that would just make things worse, but okay. What I've actually been doing with my career, and see if you feel differently. If not, cool. I'd even be willing to give out resources to people who actually need help. You're not paying for anything, and you can still comment and speak to me directly. You're clearly not grasping the full concept of this, but it is in its beginning stages, so I understand the blatant confusion. Wishing you luck. I do hope that there never comes a time where you need help, because I promise you, people like me are exactly who you would need in your corner. I feel like she thinks she's invincible. This whole situation with her killing her daughter and getting away with it has made her think she's a fucking main character, invincible superhero in a movie or some shit. Like, she thinks she's untouchable. Which, I mean, if you get away with murdering your kid, I see how that could do that to your brain, especially if you're a fucking narcissist like her. What the fuck is Substack? Because I'm confused looking at this. Casey Anthony, is this a political website? I'm confused because people are just shitting on Trump, right? Like the point of this is Casey Anthony like a political advocate now? I'm just like, I'm confused. This guy says Donald Trump is worse than any other horror story I've written. I mean, this has to be bait. Is this not bait? You're writing this in the comment section of somebody who committed a real life horror story that's worse than any Stephen King novel. So I would assume this is bait, but nobody's biting the bait. So I'm starting to think it's serious. People are just agreeing. As a middle-aged British GB wife and mother, I don't normally swear on Substack, but I feel compelled to say this. Trump, you are not fit to lace Zelensky's boots. Shut the F up, you bullshitting fucker, and tell your long-lashed bitch fans to do the same. Feel free to restack. I need a cup of tea. What is going on? I'm in over my head here. I thought it would be easy to sort out what Substack is, but I'm getting old. So this is a post from one day ago. Let's see what the climate on this is. The presumption of innocence is a sacred right afforded to all individuals arrested in this country. This is true. That is not an opinion, it is a fact. We are plagued by a rush to judgment before someone even steps foot into a courtroom. Once a verdict is read, however long the process takes, the public must trust that the system worked the way it was intended. So this is just her covering her tracks right here. Trying to shush the haters. You're entitled to your opinions, not your own set of facts. You, as the general public, will never know the full facts of a case. The media will never tell you the full truth. They will tell you what you think and how to feel. Educate yourself. Stop spreading hate. If tomorrow you woke up and were arrested and accused of a crime that you didn't commit, or someone close to you were to be, wouldn't you want for them to be treated fairly and just? It's not that complicated. I mean, what she's saying here is facts. I'm not going to disagree with this statement. But I don't like how she's twisting it to make it seem like she didn't do what she did. Allegedly, don't sue me, please. Please, Casey. But anyways, this just reminds me of another scenario that happened back in the day. And that is O.J. Simpson being accused of murdering his wife. And much like Casey Anthony, most people believe he did it. I would say, if I had to guess, probably 90% of people believe Casey Anthony killed her daughter. I would also venture to say 90% of people believe O.J. Simpson killed his wife and his wife's lover, friend, whatever. So for those of you who don't know who O.J. Simpson is, he's an incredible football player. He's one of the best running backs, especially college running backs ever. I mean, he has a fucking Fortnite skin. We need a Fortnite skin for Casey Anthony. Somebody talk to Epic Games, okay? We need a Casey Anthony Fortnite skin. If you're gonna give fucking O.J. Simpson a Fortnite skin and not Casey Anthony, that's just a crock of shit. But anyways, he's not just a guy from Fortnite. He is a legendary athlete, which I think played a little part in why he didn't get in trouble ultimately. But absolute psycho, killed his wife, killed his wife's lover in 1994, stabbed both of them to death. And then he got in this bizarre low-speed chase that was nationally televised where he was in his Ford Bronco going fucking 20 miles an hour with the police behind him. But anyways, the glove didn't fit, and that was like a whole thing. Like, the glove was way too small, the glove that was found at the crime scene. And that, amongst other things, he didn't get in trouble, but everybody pretty much knows he did it. But OJ eventually, I mean, OJ's dead now, but when OJ was alive, he started a new social media career where he would kind of just talk about football. And I think Casey Anthony's kind of trying this route, seeing if it works. Because believe it or not, OJ, he got a lot of hate for doing this. But there were some people who looked past what he did because he was such a good athlete. And they would listen to his football analysis.
Well, it's me, yours truly, at my usual Sunday haunt. Well, this is an interesting week because I think this week is going to determine what teams make the playoffs and what teams don't make the playoffs.
So he's talking about whether or not he thinks the Bills are going to make the playoffs. And then people just comments, right? You got killer thoughts, Juice. You could cut to the meat of the issues, right through the jugular. Have you found the real killer yet, dirtbag? Nobody could make a cut like you. Juice giving the death stare to know he's serious. But what's interesting about this is people, it's more in a joking manner than it is towards Casey Anthony. Because the Casey Anthony comments are like, you know, you're really angry and not lighthearted. But the OJ, I mean, you could see how much this guy was posting. He would post every single day. Oh, not every day. Okay, I lied. But he would post a lot. And eventually it almost seems like he kind of won over public opinion. Or at least the generations were so far removed from his crime that they could look past it. And I think that's what Casey Anthony's going for.
Hey, Twitter world, it's me, yours truly. What?
I forgot. I used to watch these back in the day because he would give good advice that you could use for fantasy football and stuff like that. But that just brought me back. I forgot. He would always say, hey, Twitter world. That's how he'd start off all of his videos. Yeah, but anyways, it worked for O.J. Simpson. He eventually won over the masses. Not the masses. He won over enough people where he could make a career as a public figure again. Maybe it'll work for Casey Anthony. Maybe Casey Anthony gets a Fortnite skin. But I do think that OJ's ability to win over the public had a lot to do with the fact that he was a great athlete. And people grew up watching him and they overlooked it. It's unfortunate that that's how it works. But hey, maybe if Casey Anthony brings home a ring with the Tampa Bay Bucks, she might win over the crowd a little bit. Maybe she has a career ahead of her as a public figure after murdering somebody. But anyways, that's pretty much it. I thought it was fucking crazy, and it just reminded me of how O.J. Simpson did the same exact thing. And I'm curious if it works out for her, because it's an interesting sociology experiment to see how short are people's memories, how forgiving are people, how trusting are people of the legal system's final verdict. There's many things that go into this. And if it works out for Casey Anthony, because it did work out for OJ, if it works out for Casey Anthony, there's going to be more people doing this. But anyways, if you did make it to the end, thank you guys so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.